Welcome back to the World Championship Series, round of 16, Group D. We're moving into our second series for the day after we've seen our God King bleed a single map. I'm joined by Nathanius. What's up?
Nothing. I wish I'd worn that black shirt that I'm not allowed to wear because it looks bad on camera, Fear Dragon, because I feel like I'm at a funeral. Cyril has dropped a map. They told me Mr. X can't die, and now I'm scared. Now I'm scared he can. And
because you've seen him bleed? He did make a tweet about it as well, right? I think you're talking about that.
Only ever tweets about his victories. He literally, if you go to his Twitter, it's just like, oh, I won again. Oh, I won again. Again and again. And then now he's like, you know, I really thought he was doing this build or something like that.
I thought he was going one Stargate, not two Stargates. So I made these roaches, and then...
The Chad Cyril has given up his frame, ladies and gentlemen, and that's a mini oof right there.
We're living in a different era, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right, the world is changing as we know it.
Minus the fact that Cyril's definitely dropped maps before.
Nope.
No,
this
no,
is
we're just gonna ignore
real
the other...
national emergency, Fear Dragon.
Wow.
Cyril does not lose games to Rail of all players in this group. I know there's a lot of Rail fans,
people hate
but
on
he
Rail.
ain't Rogue, he ain't Dark, and he ain't Maru. All right?
People hate on Rail so much, and I actually think he's gotten a lot better the past couple of months. I think people sleep on him.
Yeah, but if you told me any European player was twice as good as they were, I'd be like,
Rail
yeah,
is my pick for a player to make it out second in this group.
Did you forget that Harstem exists? Cue segue into our next series. Ooh. It's a PvP.
Indeed. Game is already loading on up. Harstem versus GunGFuBanDa. This is going to be an interesting one for sure, because we'll talk about these players and kind of how they did in the round of 32 in just a second. We're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue, Protoss player. He is Harstem. Team Asterion.
Famous international superstar. His opponent in the northeast has the name of a famous international super movie, but with a couple of the letters changed. He is GunGFuBanDa. Do you think that if they made a movie about him winning BlizzCon, they'd have Jack Black play him?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of a better person, like a better actor to try and play GunGFuBanDa. But nothing else coming to mind. I think Jack Black would do a good job.
Yeah, I think so.
What does that story look like? How does GunGFuBanDa
It's basically Kung Fu Panda, but it's StarCraft. And Jack Black is voicing GunGFuBanDa.
Who's the Sifu, the sensei?
Could be Harstem, actually.
Harstem?
I see Harstem as like a Godfather type figure of Protoss in Europe, you know?
Really?
I could see that.
You know, I think for
Harstem in a dark lit room with a tipped over trilby on his head and just sitting there like the room is half lit. You can't really see the top side of his face, and he's like, "So, I heard you want to beat Terrence."
That sounds more like a mafia mob boss than like a...
That's what I mean. I went for Godfather. I don't know. That's about as good as I can get. But, yeah. Oh, man. You know, I'm excited for this PvP, but now I'm like, my brain is still rattled by seeing Cyril drop a map. I was in the chat, and everyone was posting that, like, that reversed version of the word, like, champog, right? That celebratory drink. They're posting it backwards. There's a lot of those in the chat, Fear Dragon. People were losing it.
A lot of backwards shampogs.
That's right.
Do want to note that GunGFuBanDa did make it out first in his group, defeating players such as Nurchio and I think another one who was, I remember being pretty impressive. It was kind of a surprise result for GunGFuBanDa to get out first in his group, I think for most people.
Yeah.
So, but that does kind of guarantee him that #1 seed in his group, and it faces off versus Harstem, who did make it out in second place. So I want to see how Harstem's doing, because last time we saw Harstem, he played well, but I do think that Harstem's sometimes a little bit up, a little bit down with his performances, and it was not necessarily the super duper on point Flamin' Lips Harstem that wins tournaments like Home Story Cup that we saw last time.
By the way, I love the, he's got the Purifier Stalkers. Those look so, they look so, those look like
so many circles on them.
They do. If if there were like a boss in a video game, those little like bright up spots.
You target those?
Points. Yep.
That's a lot of weak points.
That's where the eyeballs are. Well, you know.
I guess another way to look at it is you have a lot of things that you have because you have to hit all.
Well,
the weak
yeah,
points,
exactly.
right?
You got to hit everyone, and then it gets like stun locked for a little bit, and then at some point you do it 3 times, right? And then the real weakness part exposes.
The stalker opens up after it gets sunlight.
The stalker opens up like a flower.
There's a zealot inside.
One more, one dude's just sitting there like, please don't shoot me.
Yeah. We do have a nice little wall off coming up here with a shield battery being built. Keeping all the sentries alive is also nice, as well as that one stalker. The shield battery on the low ground, though, kind of signaling that Harstem maybe just saying, okay, I know that I got a faster Nexus than you. I'm just going to play it a little bit safer just because you got a lot of stalkers here. In case this is aggression, Harstem didn't really get a scout out until after these stalkers put forward, and he saw the hallucinating Phoenix that there was a later Nexus coming out.
Yep. And it's going to push up, actually. Going to push these Adepts away. Gets one of them.
Should be able to get a stalker, maybe.
Stalker. I think he's in range. Oh! There it
Ooh!
is.
Nice force
grab.
build. And one Adept makes his way forward, but one Adept still takes 2 shots to kill a probe. So he gets 1 probe and again loses life.
I like this 3 sentry meta. It's a thing now. It's a thing. I yesterday I was curious. I was like, oh, I guess I missed this, but you know what? Since we're here commentating tournaments, that's a mistake. Has to be. Or he thinks he's about to get scouted.
I don't.
His opponent to think he's getting a robo.
He also threw down. Yeah, he also threw down a couple extra shield batteries. Oh yeah. Oh, you're right. I think it was for the scout. That's a really astute point.
Now, what happens if your hallucinated Phoenix sees a robo that only just started in the ground?
You're like, wait, do you have a second robo somewhere?
Oh my God!
That'd be some next level play. Well, Harstem is just going to take his gas geysers, and I'm not even sure how you would even react to that. It's like, okay, I guess I get up my own immortals right now.
It's like when you show up at like the 4-minute mark with your first hallucinated Phoenix, and the other guy accidentally hallucinates a Colossus, and you're like, good God, man, how did you get it that fast?
Did you proxy a robo somewhere on the map and also build a Colossus from it immediately? Well,
you remember that? That was actually a bug, by the way. That was one of the first bugs in StarCraft 2 people found. Was the there was like a glitch you could do to use. People did it in multiplayer. It was one of the first things that got fixed, where the old remnants of the Warp robotics facility were still in. Yeah, because they had it for the campaign, but they didn't end up using it. Those have been in the game assets forever, but only Artanis and Co-op ever actually got them. But you could just warp in robo units.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Being able to warp in robo units was a pretty beautiful time in StarCraft, but this is also another very beautiful time for StarCraft. There is a Blink finish up over here for GunGFuBanDa, so he gets the stalkers up to the high ground. All the sentries going to get locked out. Luckily, the robo will be popping out with an immortal soon, but Harstem just has so many stalkers. He's going to depower 2 of the warp gates potentially soon.
Yeah, sick Prism play, but not able to get that next pylon. Is he going to go for it? Okay, he does get it there. So 2 of the warp you were talking about can take it away. Prism makes its way back. Keeping that Prism alive is so big. Gets another one of those stalkers, and GunGFuBanDa is riding the struggle bus. He's wishing he had warp robo facilities.
That would have been pretty nice to get that immortal directly to the fight. Second immortal is going to pop out soon, though, and Harstem does get pushed back. He loses a sentry or 2, and he keeps, I think, 1 alive alongside that warp prism. But still, really, really good damage there for Harstem, depowering some of the warp gates and also sniping off so many units there for GunGFuBanDa.
Fear Dragon, could you imagine a warp prism going into your base, turning into phase mode, and warping in 5 immortals?
Okay, well, first of all, that's a really expensive warp.
What about warping in 5 Void Rays? God.
5 Void Rays.
It was all in the plans at some point. At some point, it was all possible.
I could live with that, especially in PvP, man. You warp in suddenly 5 Void Rays and Chrono Boost all your Stargates. You warp in 5 more Void Rays. Suddenly have 10 Void Rays in the span of like 30 seconds.
Be the same.
We do have Nexus going to get canceled over here, and Harstem, of course, has Blink. He took care of most of his opponent's stalkers, so it's actually very difficult for GunGFuBanDa to chase him. At the same time, there is the Warp Prism dropping off some of those Zealots in the main base, sniping off 5 workers, getting out of there. Harstem doing a great job with this PvP so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird, right? Because we think when I think about PvP, it's all about the Zealots, the Immortals, the charge lots. But Harstem's kind of had this hit squad of stalkers that's been able to run around and get a lot done. That Prism has been keeping the enemy at bay. It is really hard to take these big fights if you don't keep up your production. But you know what? Harstem actually still has. He's got 14 Zealots. He's ahead on the Zealots. He's got a lot of Immortals. He's got more Immortals. Tons of Archons.
He hasn't taken a third base either, so it seems like Harstem is saying...
He's going to do the two big pushy right now.
He's killed so many army units here for GunGFuBanDa, not just economy, so this is going to be a really difficult push for GunGFuBanDa to actually deal with. The only kind of interesting thing is that Harstem's War Prism is sort of trapped back there, so he is just going to get up a second War Prism to join the army. I think that's what he's waiting on.
I like it.
That's interesting.
What is that? GunGFuBanDa, what's going on with you, boy? What's with the hallucinations today?
He is really trying to mess with Harstem, and Harstem is just not falling for any of it.
Yeah, that's yeah, this is just weird. So the second Prism coming out now for Harstem. He's going to push that third base. It is super dead, and then we will see how the GunGFuBanDa defends in the big fight. He's supply blocked. I was going to say if he killed that pylon, he would block him again as well.
Oh, Zealot's going in.
Tries to hold position, the probes around the cannon, but nothing doing.
And that cannon's going to be gone. That does open up some opportunities for these Zealots to move back in. There's some counter War Prism harassment happening over here with the two Immortals.
Wow, forced a pretty big recall there.
And War Prism's going to die.
That's the Prism, though. That's really big. And these Immortals. Okay, just shields.
Yep.
Almost just a little bit of health damage to one of them. But
both get out of there alive, but with a third base being canceled and the fact that he's still sitting down some of that army supply, this is still a tough spot for
Fear Dragon, can I tell you something that fascinates me?
Yes.
The Nexus recall, you know the graphic that shows up when you like have it selected but you haven't cast it yet?
Yeah.
That, wherever the units are relative to that like image that appears, is where the units appear on the Nexus.
Can I blow your mind even further?
I love that.
If you had a Nexus, let's say like right over here, obviously you can't build it that close to the mineral line, but effectively right next to a cliff, and then you have the units recalled to the bottom left-hand side of that selection, they will actually get recalled up to the high ground. You can get high ground vision with recall.
You can use recall to bring units up a cliff you can't see up. That's amazing.
Thank you, Florencio, for that factoid. But third, +3 weapons is finished up here for GunGFuBanDa. This is maybe a chance for him to get something done, but he's still sitting down 20 army supply. That is a tough bit.
Can you imagine attacking someone right as they do that, where they attack the rocks because all the Zealots charges on cooldown? You have like a 5-second window where your opponent doesn't have charge. And
that'd be less than ideal. I would also say something that's less than ideal is when you have so many Zealots and you're going to be attacking up a ramp into a choke point against a bunch of Archons.
Yeah, that's also pretty rough. He's got a super cool looking Purifier Protoss army, but I don't think it's going to be enough Fear Dragon as GunGFuBanDa tries to juggle Archons through an insanely powerful Harstem army. GG! As the Dutchman takes map number 1.
Yep, well done there by Harstem. He secures a lead off of the Blink Stalker aggression with the Sentries, Force Field on the ramp and everything. And even though the Sentry Force Field didn't actually do that much, I guess the most that it did was it prevented GunGFuBanDa's Sentries from getting involved in Force Fielding and Guardian Shielding and stuff. But really just the sniping off a bunch of those Stalkers so early on, sniping off the pylons, shutting down a lot of that production, it just put him in a really good position for the rest of the game.
It was great harass. He got a lot of work done. It looked really good, really clean out of Harstem, and his macro behind it all was perfect.
And continuing that harassment with the Warpers and everything was really, really well done. But that does put him up 1-0 now in our second series of the day. GunGFuBanDa got to do something to turn this series around before he goes knocked down to the lower bracket.
If Rail can take a map off Cyril, can Harstem beat him now? Do you think Harstem could beat Cyril? Is it possible?
The real question is, do you think that Rail would lose to Harstem?
Yes.
You think so?
I'm a Harstem fanboy, sorry.
I'm a Harstem fanboy too, but I've gradually become a Rail fanboy as well.
No, Rail's not Dutch, so my mind has not changed.
That's the Roddy mentality.
This is the part where someone points out, it's like, Rail's from the same city as Harstem. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, I don't think that Harstem is from Russia, so you're probably safe there.
No, we're not. No, he's not.
Well, game number 2 looks like it's going to be on King's Cove. I always like to mention on this map when we got a Protoss player that this is a great Cannon Rush map.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I felt the Cannon Rush burn on this map, actually, yesterday.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well, I put all my SCVs into my command center, flew it over the wall, dropped them Jason style, and I beat him.
Oh, nice. You know, I've seen so many Pros players, Terran players attempt that against cannon rushes lately, and almost all of them fail miserably. Almost every single one.
You gotta be fast. Do you even know what the hotkey is to load all your SCVs into the command center?
Is it L?
Oh. L is the default liftoff hotkey.
And this is why I don't do so well in my Terran games.
Someone's gotta be here to bring out the useless facts. We don't get to see Terrans in WCS Europe now.
That's a pretty useful fact. Load? The load hotkey? That's a useful fact.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue Protoss player sitting up 1-0 in this best of 3. He is Harstem.
And also, nobody ever talks about it, but that building armor upgrade, this bunker upgrade, gives the command center extra capacity as well. Whenever people talk about Neosteel, they always miss that part. In the Northwest, he's the red Protoss player. He is GunGFuBanDa.
How much extra load capacity do the command centers get? Is it
5?
5? So they go up to 10?
10. You can hold 10 SCVs in an orbital, no, excuse me, in a regular command center or a planetary.
That's actually
a lot of
pretty
people
amazing.
Forget that planetary fortresses can hold SCVs as well. But if your SCVs are on auto repair and your mineral line's being harassed and you load them into the command center, the SCVs will all repair each other inside the command center.
If only they could repair the command center from inside the command center.
That's the buff that Terran needs. That's a fair deal, right? If you wanted to have your PF repair itself, you have to put 10 supply in
Planetary Fortress
PF
can't. Wait, can Planetary Fortress load SCVs?
Yes.
No. Wait, really?
Yes. People don't realize this.
Oh my god, I think I only ever see regular command centers that have not transformed to anything loading SCVs.
Planetary fortresses can load up to 10 SCVs inside of them if you have the building armor upgrade now.
Why wouldn't you go for it then? That's amazing for harassment that Oracle comes in.
Imagine if I mean, that 10 supply inside the PF does nothing if it's just there, but imagine if you could repair from the inside.
Okay, next level strategy right here, Nate. You go Terran, you go for your natural expansion as a planetary fortress. Zerg or Protoss or whatever comes in, you load 10 of your workers into the planetary fortress before the scout comes in.
And they think you're
all-inning.
Like, he has no SCVs. Yeah, but who builds a planetary at their natural?
They think you
and has no all-ins. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm gonna win so many games on the ladder with this. Just watch.
Okay, I'm excited. Send me the replays. Both players are expanding. It's PvP. We're waiting for them to make.
But I think the more interesting thing is the fact that not only is the Nexus a good bit faster here for Harstem, he did delay a Stalker Sentry, so this was a little bit of a gamble. It's not a huge gamble, but if there was, say, double Stalker followed up with 2 more Stalkers, like 4 Stalker aggression, Harstem would maybe be in a little bit of trouble. But he sends that probe across the map, sees that's probably not going to be the case, I think, and is going to be in a good spot.
Nice. Stargate. We'll see how much of a commitment we get to that. As it can get weird.
Forge for Harstem. Okay. Is he just going to try and get a really fast +2 weapons?
I feel like that's what we saw yesterday, right, in the PvP? That's kind of what happened, where it was like the Protoss player was like, well, Fat +1 isn't really a thing, because you need to have, like, Blink or Charge or something with that. But hey, as that Stargate finishes up, the Forge drops for GunGFuBanDa as well. Both players are thinking about them upgrades.
Yep. Oracle going to be the first unit out of here for GunGFuBanDa, as I think the Phoenix moved around and didn't actually scout out any real tech, but he did see the Forge. So probably also has a good idea with how fast that Nexus was, that the tech's going to come down a little later.
There, but there's no block. Adepts are inside of the main of Harstem.
Retro. They've been losing a lot of workers here. This is a pretty bad situation.
Those probes were 2 weeks from retirement, Fear Dragon.
Remember, there just aren't that many units here for Harstem because he did go for the faster Nexus. He delayed everything. Loses 8 workers.
Stalkers aren't really known for their adept killing prowess either.
No, not really. Harstem, I think he's going to be okay just because he got the faster Nexus, so that will go his way. Love this Oracle skin, by the way. This is, I always thought this was one of the coolest skins.
GunGFuBanDa is only using Purifier skins on his army. If you look at He's using the default Protoss buildings, but all of his units are Purifier.
Here to purify the Protoss
Really nice.
menace.
It looks really nice.
Photon cannon going up inside the mineral line here for Harstem. That is, I suppose, a mineral investment way to deal with a lot of the Oracle harassment.
So we can keep our fluff about Protoss then, Fear Dragon. Where do you stand on Phoenix versus Talendar? Are you emotionally charged about this? Because there are many people who
versus Talendar?
Yeah. Did you not play Legacy of the Void campaign, Fear Dragon?
I did. Talendar was a hero, wasn't he? Or no?
Was he though?
Or was it a unit? I remember the Mirages.
Someone didn't do all the talking scenes with the NPCs, Fear Dragon.
Have been revealed.
It's okay.
As have these units. One of the Oracles does go down, though. GunGFuBanDa really not getting a lot of value from these Oracles so far. Is finally going to move back in and try to start to fire down one worker, but
at
more
one
damage.
probe kill. Noise.
Harstem making his move across the map. Remember that all was a big investment there for the
This
two
is so
Oracles.
scary. He doesn't have Blink. There's an Immortal out. Oh, baby.
3 shield batteries is going to be a pretty solid wall to try and break, even if you do have 13 Stalkers and 4 Sentries.
Weird how force fields become a part of the meta game again. Never used to really. It feels like it like fell off so hard, but now we're getting it. Now we're getting lots of sentry openings, leading to lots of force fields. And he's going to hallucinate the Immortal and put it up front. Cheeky, cheeky.
War Prism popping out at the absolute perfect time to try and pull back in these units to
God.
take too much damage on the front lines. Harstem doesn't really have the same micro potential there without a War Prism, and he's losing a lot of units.
This hurts to watch. I'm just like, there's 4 shield batteries and an Immortal and a Warp Prism.
Shield battery almost out of energy here. That is the one saving grace for Harstem, but he just doesn't have enough units, it feels like, to actually do a whole lot more.
Yeah,
War Prism gets low.
I don't know what he was expecting here. Okay, gets the Prism.
And the shield batteries
are out of energy.
But the Immortal is still sitting at full shields right now. Zell is getting warped in. I do like that decision. Going to be able to soak up some of those Immortal hits without target firing.
I mean, if Harstem makes this work, I'll happily admit that I'm a fool, but another Immortal is out.
Yeah.
Like...
And behind this, Harstem just starts up +2 weapons.
Who would win? A well-balanced Protoss army composition or some non-blinky boys? Some spoopy. I guess Stalkers are...
You could say that they were blinky boys when the Warp Prism was there. They were blinky boys for...
Well, Harstem didn't have it.
Ah, yeah.
He just showed up with Stalkers and like, I'm going to kill your whole army. I'm like, well, force fields were good, but Immortals are better.
Oracle moves back in, kills off 3 war workers. GunGFuBanDa with a really solid hold. Getting all the shield batteries, by the way, was a huge deal, because if he even had like maybe 2 less shield batteries, I actually think that he dies there. I think it was going to be a bit closer. So GunGFuBanDa with the Oracle Scout.
Oh, the attack was... Yeah, I'm not trying to hit on the attack like that. I don't think it was bad. It's just that there was so much there to defend. There was so much.
This Nexus is a little ambitious right now without any units here.
Cancel here would be pretty good. The army's going to come over. If he doesn't get the deny,
he might be able to trap these Stalkers. Okay, ooh, recall comes out, but he's going to lose a few of these.
Loses 2 Stalkers for a Nexus.
That's not bad.
Is it though? No. It's, the value of the actual Nexus itself is quite low compared to 2 Stalkers, in my opinion. But having the 3rd base, of course, is where that damage becomes annoying.
And now we're going to see a Dark Shrine come out here for Harstem. Now, the supplies are pretty even, but don't let that fool you. It is 3 Immortals, an Archon in the mix, with a War Prism out for GunGFuBanDa. He's making his way across the map because it's just Zealots and Stalkers and like a single sentry.
Yep. My brain goes back to like, you call that an oif?
Oh, okay. This is...
call that an army? Here's an army for you.
You know what is sort of interesting is that there's only 1 observer out right now for GunGFuBanDa, and if this does go into a really wonky base trade...
He does have the Oracle too, don't forget.
Yeah. Revelation also... Revelation is going to be useful. Recall is also available here for GunGFuBanDa. He's going to recall mostly the Immortals and 2 Archons. Actually goes to the Natural. It's going to be able to be enough to push this army back.
Yep, Harstem does not have the energy to recall to his Natural. Does not have the energy to recall to... Oh, he can only go back to his main, but he's actually on cooldown.
Oh, look at all these Zealots warped in. This is not something that Harstem can actually deal with right now.
He's
DT's
ready, and there he goes. He can recall.
Yeah. DT actually, I think, is not going to be able to do a whole lot over here anyways. As some DTs get warped in, they get some snipes off, but the Observer was... Wait, where'd the Observer go?
It's there. It's right by the...
Ah, there it is. Underneath the warp.
DTs die instantly.
Yep.
I think he burned a chrono, so he doesn't have recall. His army is pretty much dead. He's inside the main base with those DTs and zealots. He's gonna try.
Loses observer. Yeah, I think he was hoping to get that observer out, but once it gets sniped off, GG gets called, and GunGFuBanDa ties up the series 1-1.
Wow.
A nice attempt there from Harstem, but GunGFuBanDa having really good vision in this. Also just good control with his Warp Prism.
I feel like this map kind of baits you into making this attack where you're like, well, yes, you have a ramp, but there's a side path I can go down. It's like, yes, but it's a small side path. It takes longer to get there. Just because you can fight without the ramp doesn't mean you're magically going to kill me because I've got 4 shield batteries and a Warp Prism.
Yeah, the 4 shield batteries really did seal the deal there, and Harstem...
If he has no batteries, like he had a lot of force fields, his Stalker micro is good, but it's just like at some point, the guy's going to have so much time, and then you get to 2 Immortals, and you're like, well, I only have Stalkers. I don't have Blink or Prism.
Yep.
So...
The micro potential is just a lot lower there for Harstem.
Yeah, there's just less that he can do.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, even though the supplies were pretty even, there's no follow-up. The quality of Harstem's army is so much worse in that situation than GunGFuBanDa.
Yeah, Stalkers are not good in a head-to-head fight in PvP. Yep.
So we get ready to move to game number 3. That was, I think, like a sort of one-off build or attack that Harstem can try and go for, but it's not usual PvP, I would say.
To be fair, he may have felt forced into that attack. So let's not hate on Harstem too much. If he doesn't lose 8 probes to the 2 adepts, then maybe he doesn't go for that attack. Maybe he takes his 3rd faster, or he gets some other from attack.
That's a really fair point.
He may have felt like he had to attack.
You know, it's kind of funny because I did think that his economy was not that much further behind than GunGFuBanDa's just because he got up the faster Nexus.
He was ahead on probes.
He had more probes, but you're right. It was still an investment that was lost, and that was an investment that GunGFuBanDa instead put into the robotics facility and all these other units, getting up his actual tech. So that did hurt him for sure.
Yep. So we'll see what happens on game number 3, as it's going to be Port Alexander.
Okay. Remember that the winner of this series is going to go on to face off versus Serral, which should just be an absolute treat for these guys. But I would say, more importantly, the loser of this series, if you assume that Serral is going to win all of his matches today, then the loser of this series has to go in and face off against another Protoss player, then get to play in the decider match. So it's that extra chance that you might just immediately lose out in the group. You don't potentially get into 2nd place. This is, of course, all considering that most people are expecting Serral to win.
Yeah. Well, we all should.
Yeah.
He is the Night King. He's Mr. X. He's the God Emperor of StarCraft. Anyway, this guy, he's not that, but he's pretty good in the top left. He's wearing blue. He's GunGFuBanDa.
And down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Protoss player. His name is Harstem.
Kevin de Koning. Kevin the King. Last names and all those badass meanings that they've got. Good Dutch names.
If you could pick your own name, what would you pick?
Nathaniel Lawrence Fabricant, Fear Dragon.
Lawrence?
Yeah.
Is that your middle name?
Yes, it is.
That's a good middle name.
Lawrence spelled like law, not Lawrence spelled like Lauren, your aunt.
Do you look at me and think that my aunt is named Lauren? Just want to clarify this.
Am I allowed to answer that question?
I don't know. Are you?
Probably not.
Well, PvP, of course, does take a bit of time to get into gear. Usually we're just going to see the double gateway opens and stuff. But last game, we did see Harstem go for a bit of a trickier opening, going for the faster expansion stuff. Probably also maybe has a little bit to do with the map. Having that high ground ramp up to your natural, so it was a little bit easier to defend. Yeah, there's the other pathway that Nate was talking about and stuff, but it's still very much defensible, I think, in a lot of those situations. So I expect that Harstem is going to play it a little bit more normal, a little safer this game.
Yeah, this is a much more standard map. You have a lot less opportunity, particularly on Port Alexander, to like do the big blink play into the main, because the space to do it is smaller, as compared to like King's Cove, where you could blink up your whole entire army at once if you positioned it right.
Yeah.
You just, you know, there's a little bit more maneuverability there. Port Alexander always feels like a little bit more of a stand. Third's a bit more exposed.
Yeah, I've honestly been enjoying a lot of PvP. I know the meta for Protoss versus Protoss is really not settled down just because PvP, people used to love Stargate openings. If you didn't go for the Stargate openings, you were dealing with the Oracle harassment and everything. But the Oracles getting a armored tag means that those Stalkers are doing extra damage to
Stalkers
them.
are good. Stalkers are good versus the Oracles now.
It's really shifted up a lot of the PvP meta lately. I think Protoss players are still adjusting a bit to it. We saw in that last game that GunGFuBanDa got the Oracles, but he wasn't getting a lot of damage done with those Oracles early on. He was mostly just getting scouting information. And that's what he needed in order to survive and realize to throw down the shield batteries and everything. But it is something I think, again, Protoss players are still adjusting to, figuring out where they can take things if they want to go for more blink plays or if they want to still keep going for Stargates, as we end up seeing one Stargate down for Harstem.
Yep. Stargate can still be fun, though. I mean, Phoenix Harass is still a thing. Biggest change that was really done in terms of that was the post-BlizzCon patch, right? They made it so that shield batteries can regenerate lifted units.
Yes.
Which, when you have enough Phoenix, like, you're going to be one-shotting the probes, so that's not as much of a factor. But it can help just a little bit. It's not like the Tide Turner, but it's like if you have enough Stalkers, like, barely kind of push them off your mineral line, then having the shield battery keep you from getting dived on becomes something that
there was specifically were some really dirty Protoss one base all-ins with a couple of Phoenix where you lift up the Stalkers, or if there is an Immortal or something there, you lift that up. And it was quite difficult to defend because your shield batteries that you'd make just weren't really helping you out anymore. So that really helped that. I think versus, like you were saying, the Phoenix run by harassment and stuff, it didn't make a huge difference. And later game stuff maybe makes a small difference, but not as often. We do end up seeing the first Oracle popping, our second Oracle, I should say, popping on out. Just the first Oracle poked forward, encountered, I think, the pylon? No, actually didn't even poke forward.
Okay.
He's just waiting for both of them to dive in, assuming there might be not only units there, but there also might have been a shield battery in the main base, so.
Now, playing it safe here. There's the Adepts again. Except it's this time. Getting inside of GunGFuBanDa's base.
Yeah, there is also some.
Oh my god,
on
and
the other side of the map.
Oracles! Okay, so the Oracles are going to come in. The Adepts are focusing down the probes, and... Okay, Oracle gets away with no hit points. I was going to say, I like this a lot, but I don't think he killed anywhere near enough probes.
No, the irony there is that GunGFuBanDa invested less into his attack with just 2 Adepts running in, and he kills 5 workers. And then Harstem runs in with 2 Oracles and 2 Adepts and only kills 4. So, not exactly what Harstem wanted there, but he keeps both Oracles alive.
At the end of the day, Harstem is ahead on probes, though.
Yep.
By just a little bit.
Yep, maybe using a couple more of those Chronobus on those workers. And, of course, has these Oracles both still alive, so he can continue to Revelation the army, have a perfect scout continuously on his opponent. 4 more Stalkers making their way forward. This actually might be a little bit dangerous here, because remember, GunGFuBanDa just finished up Blink, so if Harstem takes a slightly bad trade here, which, by the way, there's a shield battery, he should take a slightly bad trade here, is actually not supposed to be an escape.
Yeah, that's just... Harstem's very bold with these plays here. Okay, so he's like, you can kill my Stalkers, my Oracles will come in and get 7 probes. Now, that's not bad, but Harstem doesn't really have anything anymore.
Yep.
Getting Immortals out, which is good. But the follow-up for GunGFuBanDa, +1 attack and Resonating Glaives. This just screams L'Explosion de Gateway for a big push. Resonating Glaives is not really something that you see a whole lot of in PvP.
Yeah, Resonating Glaive Adepts can be strong, and in the mid-game of PvP, they actually can beat out a lot of the Stalkers in large numbers, but as the game goes on, you really start to see a big fall off there, especially when Protoss players start to get up a lot of charge lots, and get up a lot of the Archons, as Templar Archons being thrown down for Harstem, Charge getting close to finishing up, and all those Gateways finishing up soon as well. So, want to see when does GunGFuBanDa make his big pushing, because his Gateways are not going to be finishing up that much earlier on than Harstem's.
No.
Oop, snipes off an Observer. That's a nice pick.
Good pick there. Gets that Revelation, actually.
Gets the Revelation on the Observer, too.
I don't think he'll dive on it.
He has nothing to dive with it on.
Yeah, I was going to say, but he, that Naked Purifier Observer.
Okay, but there is the move out for GunGFuBanDa. His upgrades about to finish Resonant Enclaves. His Warp Prism makes its way across the map as well with 4 Adepts inside of it. But this is the point that Harstem I was talking about. He's going to have a couple of his Archons, which do quite well versus Adepts since they are still light units. Harstem's going to have his own Warp Prism. I actually think that Harstem has all the tools he needs now to defend against a big attack like this.
Yeah, I don't hate this setup. I do question, I don't think he has any shield batteries in the natural, which makes me a little bit nervous. But these Adepts doing a little bit of work. Oracle helping out a lot to keep the Adepts from killing those Stalkers there. But the Warp Prism is going to try to get in a wave here. Oh.
Yep. Warp's in a big wave, but he's losing his army in the center of the map. Remember, the Harstem can still just recall if he really needs to. Oh, he doesn't have energy on that Nexus.
Okay, well, he's got Charge Zealots as well that he just warped in. So.
He's also still killing more units with these Zealots on the middle of the map.
And you know what? He's making use of the utility of that Stargate, going for the Phoenix to follow up, and he's like, yep, I'm just going to tag this onto that Warp Prism. He's like, we're not doing this dance of you skirting your prism around forever.
Okay, Disruptor number 1 is on its way out here for GunGFuBanDa, but I guess it's going to take a little bit to make its way down to the bottom of the ramp, and GunGFuBanDa really needs to be able to hold on here. He's going to be able to buy a bit of time with that shield battery. Now the Disruptor is here. This is what he's relying on, a big Disruptor hit, but it whiffs.
Yep, and he could push right now. But you know what? The more time Harstem waits, the harder this is going to get, because once the Disruptor number 2 and 3 come out, we're going to start seeing this game turn into catch the flying frisbee, Fear Dragon.
Especially going into a choke point. You're right, there is absolutely a limited amount of time that this can work. Warp Prism, just kind of scouting around, keep an eye on that army.
He can also just try to contain him and like take his 3rd base while this hat goes on.
Yeah.
But there was definitely an opportunity for him to just end the game after that first whiff. But now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, remember that these Stalkers for GunGFuBanDa also have Blink from earlier on in the game, so he does have that transition well set up. It's not like he was just stuck on Resonating Glaive Adepts. And those Adepts, maybe 1 or 2 of them will get picked off over here, but Harstem is stuck on so many charge lots in these Archons, and now he's going to be going up against an army that has 5 Disruptors in a moment's time. This is, this gets into that weird territory.
GunGFuBanDa going for the full M-canning strategy.
So you can get up enough Phoenix to try and lift up the Disruptors. Phoenix do produce faster than Disruptors, but this is not an easy army to control. And you usually want more Phoenix than they actually have Disruptors, just because it's...
Well, you're going to lose a Phoenix or 2 going in on them, right? So there's a lot of Stalkers to protect them.
We end up having the Disruptors kind of lead the charge a little bit, but GunGFuBanDa not really establishing a 3rd base, so Harstem is maybe pinning some of those hopes that on that he can just buy a bit more time. I really don't like when you get into a situation where you're just relying on Phoenix to lift up all the Disruptors in time, though, because once you get up to like 7, 8 Disruptors, I feel like even Need, even Showtime, even Zest messes that up.
Yeah, it's really hard to control. Putting absolutely everything on that. Here's the Phoenix coming back to deal with Adept harass.
Well, Adept's not actually going to get too much more damage done in the main base, but pulling the entire army back is about as much as GunGFuBanDa was really hoping for. Get some more workers down over by the 3rd base, but GunGFuBanDa establishes his own 3rd base and starts moving out.
Yeah, and the worker count favoring GunGFuBanDa, so he has a little bit of a time window before Harstem's 3rd base is going to be paying for itself again. Gets the Dank Shrine behind all of this, still cranking out Disruptors. 8 Phoenix to 7 Disruptors right now, with 2 more Phoenix being produced as the 2nd Stargate just finished up. GunGFuBanDa going to try and poke his way down. Remember, it's mostly a Stalker army here, so in just raw DPS of if you remove these Disruptors, then Harstem wins very one-sidedly. Harstem would absolutely dunk on this.
So he needs good Disruptor. It's not an option. It's a requirement right now for him.
If you're going to play this composition, that's what you're asking for. You're removing your units from being in the equation as much as your control with one specific unit. Going bowling, as it were.
Yeah, and it's also tough because, yeah, these Stalkers can escape pretty easily, but the Disruptors are a little bit more vulnerable. They have to be careful. Phoenix were moving around.
Those Disruptors, if you had just like dove on that, if you grabbed them.
If he had seen them, that would have been pretty devastating.
Yeah, if he was all-knowing, omnipotent. That would have
well, Disruptor's actually not in the mix over here, so the Stalker's going to have to blink back, retreat out, Few adepts trying to go for a
that
run
one
back.
zealot charge all the way across the map, by the way.
Zealots can charge pretty far.
Like that one zealot, he went on a journey.
4 DTs just got warped in, by the way, from the top right-hand side. Going to join the forces of these adepts. There's no photon cannons there.
In the space. I don't think there's a cannon on the third either.
Harstem has 1 observer, and I think it's making its way across the map right now. Third base is going to die here for GunGFuBanDa, but guess what? Same thing for Harstem. And we got a bit of a weird stalemate here. The problem is I think Harstem's going to have a much harder time charging into this natural.
Harstem is just scared to attack, and rightfully so. If he executes a push properly, he wins very easily. And if he makes one mistake, that's it. It's all over. Because his Zealots and Immortals and Archons will ravage everything and anything that GunGFu could put out. He just doesn't. He just has to avoid a sick money disruptor hit, killing like half his army. Because like one disruptor shot in the middle of all those Zealots turns it immediately.
Yeah, I really do feel like the onus is on Harstem to make sure he doesn't mess up any of the micro here. Because again, 13 Phoenix. Plenty of Phoenix to lift up all the disruptors before they get their shot off, but when there are this many disruptors, it can still happen. It's no one in StarCraft that is human is perfect.
Yeah, we even saw God King Cyril leave today.
Anything can happen. +3 weapons, getting close to finishing up here for GunGFuBanDa. If he waits just a little bit longer before an engagement, he can get that up. Third base getting canceled is kind of annoying because Harstem's reestablishing his own, and the economy is going to start favoring Harstem a little bit more. There's also that option that Harstem has the double Stargate. If he really wants to, he can even start thinking about a transition, getting it down a Fleet Beacon. It's not an easy transition, but going into super late game stuff can definitely work out.
Yeah,
The air army.
That recall on the Phoenix. Prism does not get away. Did it have 4 DTs in it?
I think it did.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, no. Because the 4 DTs from earlier were there.
Okay, just Zealots.
I think so. But we do have 3 more DTs getting warped in. A single Zealot just poking away at this Nexus. Going to pull GunGFuBanDa all the way back.
I really like having DTs mixed into a regular army, by the way. He might still turn them into Archons at some point, but I love seeing the random DTs.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people make mistakes.
Having some more Archons definitely wouldn't hurt, just because it will keep the Zealots at bay. Otherwise, the Zealots get directly on top of the Stalkers that also want to be at a range. And the Disruptors can have a harder time actually getting the shots off without just obliterating your own army.
It looks like Harstem wants to punch his ticket out of here. 2 disruptor shots go. They go nowhere.
Zealot run by over the natural. 1 photon cannon and a shield battery will buy a little bit of time, but that's way too many Zealots to buy too much time.
Lifts up the disruptors, every last one of them. And the Phoenix are going to be able to clean this up easy peasy. The disruptors that are dropped are still left exposed. They all die. And I think
that should be it.
Just push him in here. Yeah, he's up 100, almost 100 supply. GG, Harstem does it.
Really well done, and Harstem with a lot of patience there. You saw how many times he was poking back and forth with that army versus so many disruptors. It's not easy. It's actually one of those things that even though Harstem wins that fight very one-sidedly, that absolutely you miss 1 disruptor or 1 disruptor shot goes off right before the Phoenix charge on in, or the Phoenix that was lifting a disruptor gets picked off and you don't relift it, and suddenly half of your army can just disappear. So Harstem does a really great job waiting for the perfect moment to dive in.
And
gets it done.
He advances on to the winner's round. Because of that, he'll be playing against Cyril later on. And you know what? Now I find this group interesting because Cyril dropped a map. My entire reality has been questioned, Fear Dragon, and I don't know. I guess I should spin a top on this table and see if it ever stops.
Well, we're going to move into that lower bracket match first. That is going to be another Protoss versus Protoss, where 2 players are going to be fighting for their lives, their tournament lives, in the round of 16. Rail versus GunGFuBanDa. We'll see you guys there.